Welcome into another episode of the Hilltopper Sports Podcast. I am Todd Allum. With me today, Kyle Patrick. Kyle, welcome back to the podcast. Your second time on.
Yeah, Todd, thanks for having me. Hopefully we can stay a little bit more on track this time than the last time. I know we got off topic a little bit, but that tends to happen with us.
It does, and I think the first time especially because it had been a while since we had talked, maybe not in general, but definitely a while since we had talked in this kind of atmosphere where we're on a show, we get to talk sports. It had been quite a while, so we probably couldn't help ourselves. Yeah. Just kind of went off kilter there. Sorry, folks.
It happens.
But we will talk hockey. You are going to have to suffer through that again because when Kyle and I are on this show together, you're going to get some hockey talk. I'm at least not wearing the Mario jersey today.
Yeah, which is good. I thought maybe you'd wear a Sid jersey or break out another one, but
I don't have a Crosby jersey. I had a Malkin jersey. Like when Gino was a rookie, my dad went and bought a jersey that he had signed, and it was only like $100, if that, something like that. It was crazy. Nowadays, especially his rookie season on a jersey that we talked about it last time, the Vegas Gold, those old school uniforms you don't really like too much. It's on those. Same with Fleury. Got an autograph at that too. I'm not wearing those too much. I'm not going to get those messed up.
No, I don't blame you. I have a Fleury autograph stick that I don't touch, so keep that one pretty safe.
You got a special case made for it?
I don't, but I do have a autograph, like little mini helmet by Sidney Crosby that I keep in a little case. So,
which one is the most prized piece of memorabilia?
I'd probably say the Crosby helmet. I mean, just because he's probably one of the greatest hockey players of all time. But could be worth some money one day.
Were you present when it was signed, either one of them?
Yeah, I got to meet Sidney Crosby, Marc-Andre Fleury, and I think the other person was Colby Armstrong, actually, at the time. I think it was Sid's rookie year maybe, or his second year. They did like a little private thing, and my dad got tickets through his work that we were able to go and meet these guys and do the signing and everything. And the Crosby thing was like, you just take whatever you're getting signed, you shake his hand. It's not like you got to sit there and talk to him. But for Fleury, I actually got to sit and talk to him for about maybe a minute, 2 minutes, because there wasn't as big as a line, and everybody wanted to see Sid. So Fleury wasn't really that huge household name yet that he was now in Pittsburgh, but he was just kind of bursting onto the scene. He didn't have any good years or anything yet. So I think it might have been his rookie season too. But
did you mention to him that you were a goaltender as well?
I did, yeah. And I brought up one of my sticks, so he signed it. It was a Marty Brodeur stick, and I said, Marty Brodeur is one of the guys that he looked up to, and when he was getting ready to bust into the NHL. But so it was a pretty good talking point for us, and talked to him about watching the Nailers, and he knew some of the guys on the Nailers team from training camp and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool.
Well, one of those big names I didn't get to meet that Fleury would know that played for the Wheeling Nailers. My brother met him years and years and years ago. Paul Bissonnette does his own podcast now, pretty popular guy. Not a big deal, right?
Not a big deal at all, no. Yeah, that's one of our favorite podcasts that we listen to together. Spit and Chicklets, good one. And Paul Bissonnette. It's crazy that he was in Wheeling for a couple of years, and I love when he always tells the stories that he should have been probably playing in the NHL, but the Penguins didn't like him because he kept getting in trouble, so they just kind of sent him down to Wheeling and said, "You're going to play here instead." So, but he's got some funny stories to share about the Ohio Valley, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, not all of them will people from the Valley enjoy hearing.
No, yeah.
But that's anywhere. I'm sure if we were pro athletes or semi-pro, whatever, and went and played wherever he was from, we would have some choice things to say about that area as well, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, today's guest on the podcast is assistant coach Cassie Seth of women's basketball. It's always fun talking to Coach Seth. If you've been to West Liberty games or women's basketball games before, this is probably not going to be the first time you've heard her speak. She lets make sure everybody in the arena knows what she's saying or trying to get her players to do. It's kind of fun, but I also told her the intensity that she plays with, or that she, I'm sure, played with but coaches with. As a player, that would have fired me up and got me ready to go.
Yeah, I always responded more to coaches like Cassie, that just kind of tell it how it is, and they're in your face. And I think her and Coach Cooper have a great balance of during games at least, Coach Cooper kind of more of a calming influence and, more of the, let's dial in, let's do all this different stuff and draw up the plays. But Cassie, if you're messing up out there, she's going to let you know, and it's a good balance. And, they've obviously knew each other for a very long time, so they know they have that balance. But, yeah, Cassie, she has a great energy out there, and I'd hate to be on the wrong end of some of her conversations on the bench for sure.
Well, and that's the funny part. In my mind, I think to myself, as if I was a coach, okay, I'm going to try to give them the players the least amount of excuses they could possibly give me for not getting the job done or not doing what they were supposed to be doing. I don't want to hear, I couldn't hear you, coach. That's not going to happen with Coach Seth.
No. Yeah, she does, like you said, she lets you know that when she is upset with something for sure. And, maybe we got to hear a little bit more because, at least when we called the games together, we sat right next to the bench.
Mm-hmm.
So, it might have sounded a little bit louder to us. But, I think that's a sign of a good coach, though. She's not afraid to speak her mind, and, those players respect her. Cassie's done a great job along with Coach Cooper, building this family brand and this family atmosphere for the girls basketball team. And, they're just doing a great job with it. But, yeah, Cassie, when it gets game mode, she's more dialed in and more intense than anybody else on the court.
And I don't know about you. I told her, I admitted to her, when that is the intensity that we see on the sideline from the coaches, the players, it makes us as broadcasters want to do as good a job as they are doing. They deserve this. They put this much effort and this much time into their craft, into what they're doing. They deserve to have us be at our best as well. And that's kind of the fun part about our job in sports. We no longer players or coaches, but we still feel a part of it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I mean, when you're just around that culture, that's at West Liberty, whether it be with any of the sports, everybody just wants to win. And, we're the same way on the broadcast side of things as well. We want to be the best in our conference and Division II. That there's not many schools that have what we had, but, we would always, compare and everything like that. So it's good to be around this culture at West Liberty.
It absolutely is, and it's tough right now that we're getting partial a little bit of being around that culture still through Zoom and getting to do these podcasts and talking with everybody, but it's not the same being stuck at home and quarantined. And again, I know I asked you the first podcast, how are you dealing with this? Kyle works in admissions at West Liberty now, obviously a former student there, an alumnus in the broadcast program, but now works in admissions at West Liberty University. How are you dealing with working at home?
I don't like working from home, but it is what it is, a situation. Obviously, it's hopefully maybe we're starting to head back in the right direction, but I miss being on campus. It's such a beautiful campus, and this time of year is when we're supposed to have a lot of our events and open house, and we miss that and our accepted student days. But hopefully, we're still crossing our fingers that we can hold orientations on campus, but you never know which way that's going to go. But we're fortunate to have a very good team, and everybody's doing their part at home, working from home. And we've set up new features on our website where prospective students can come on and just go right on the website and start chatting with an admissions counselor. So it's been going pretty well. But yeah, I'm tired of being cooped up at home. I'm ready to get back on campus, and especially this time of the year when everything's starting to bloom.
When everything starts getting a little bit warm again, I think it's supposed to rain. At least the day that we're recording this, it's supposed to rain. So we'll see what happens. But that's the one thing that I have noticed with West Liberty University. I don't know, every school and all these companies and businesses are doing it as well and adapting to what is going on in the world right now. I really do think West Liberty University has done a really good job at adapting to the adversity they're facing. Just again, whether it's athletics trying to recruit people and the hold that was put on that with the NCAA and still trying to get things done for all the sports and admissions as well. It's not just sports at these universities. I know that's what we talk about a lot and that's what we're focused on, but it is really important for all of the other scholastic things, all the majors, all the different departments. Everybody is having to deal with these kind of things, and there's changes and everything that everybody does. So I think West Lib has done a really, really good job at adapting to it and making sure it's as streamlined as possible or as you could expect in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, this is a make or break moment, for a lot of universities out there. And there's a lot of kids that are undecided, and there's going to be a lot of kids that are going to look at the way that their potential schools that they want to go to handle this situation. And, some kid might be looking at this school, but like they're not handling the situation well, they're not communicating. And they look at, a school like Wesley Reed that we're trying to do everything we can to, make sure we're there for the students for one. And then also, make sure we let them know what's going on, updates about events and everything like that. So we've been pretty fortunate to, like I said, have a good team and get everything out as soon as possible, and just troubleshooting and thinking about if this happens down the road, what are we going to do in case and everything like that. So it's nice having a plan.
Yeah, it eases the anxiety just a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Back to sports, I guess. It's rough with no live sports on TV. We at least did get to see. I don't know how much of an NBA fan or basketball fan you are, and I know it's a little bit before your time, but Michael Jordan and The Last Dance, the documentary on ESPN. I spoke with Sean Ryan about this on a podcast as well, but it was really well done. Only as of taping this or filming this, only 2 episodes, the first 2 episodes have aired on ESPN, so it's really cool to watch. You kind of wonder yourself. I saw somebody tweet out before that you wonder to yourself, how are you going to make 10 episodes of a documentary about one season? And then after you watch the first 2 episodes, it's like, how is there only 10? There has to be 10 more. Please be 10 more, because the first 2 were great.
Yeah, it's to your first point, it's been tough without live sports. And I'm not the biggest NBA guy, but I mean, obviously Michael Jordan's one of the greatest athletes of all time. So I'm definitely going to get around to watching it. And I've grown up in the LeBron era, so I didn't really get to see Michael Jordan play too often. But obviously, there's still that great debate, is LeBron better than Michael Jordan and all that. So I'm not even going to weigh in on that, because I would be the last person to try to put my input on that. But yeah, I'll definitely get around to that. And yeah, it's I love documentary series. I've binged a lot of them since I've been home, stuck at home a lot. I watched that the McMillions. I don't know if you saw that, where the guy gets the McDonald's Monopoly game, and there's it's like a 6-part. It's on Hulu and HBO. It's really good though. So I've been keeping myself busy with TV. My girlfriend and I just binged Ozark on Netflix. 3 seasons in like 3 days we got done. So that was a fun one. Now we have to wait like a whole another year for season 4, but it's been watching a lot of TV. And then but I need to get around to watching the Michael Jordan though, for sure.
It's a good one. Ozark, I was going to tell you, that's a good one to watch. I just did the same thing maybe a week before you did.
I've had several people in my family and friends being like, you got to watch Ozark, and it sounded like it really wasn't my cup of tea, but I loved it. And Jason Bateman's one of my favorite actors, so it was a no-brainer once I got into it.
Have you ever watched the show? It's an older one. It was on Fox first, then Netflix picked it up later on. It was called Arrested Development. It was a comedy.
I haven't, but now people say I have to go back and watch that now too.
Because Ozark, and it's all because of Jason Bateman, but he's in both shows. But Arrested Development is kind of a comedy version of Ozark.
Yeah.
It's different, but it's still funny. It's very good. I loved Arrested Development. That was one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that. Obviously I still watch The Office, as much as I can. I love that show. I think I probably watched it 9 times through all the way. Just every night before I go to bed, I just throw it on. But I've been trying to get through Parks and Rec as well. Pretty funny show, similar to The Office. So it's been a good time for catching up on TV. But when life goes back to normal and all these shows, the shows that come back and they're starting to have new seasons, I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to keep up with it. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's going to be the difficult part. I watched Parks and Rec as well a while ago. I enjoyed that thoroughly. What's funny to me is I didn't know I knew about it, but I never watched it or paid attention to Parks and Rec until after Guardians of the Galaxy came out. So I saw that and I can't remember the actor's name. That's terrible, but it's Quill in Guardians of the Galaxy. Was it Andy in Parks and Rec?
I've never seen Guardians of the Galaxy, so.
Oh, you haven't? Oh, well,
you know me. I don't watch. I've never watched
it's
Spider-Man, Superman, Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Wars. None of those kind of.
Oh movies. Man, you're missing out, bud. Well, okay, the goofy guy on Parks and Rec.
Okay, yeah, it's Andy, I think.
Yeah, and Ron Swanson, he's my favorite. You'll like Ron Swanson too because he's a big Tiger Woods fan.
Yeah, wears red after on Monday. So
Yeah. Well, I guess we spent enough time talking about everything else. We have, again, Coach Cassie Seth is on the podcast today, our interview. I guess we can pitch it to her right now. So, Coach Cassie Seth. And Topper Nation, welcome in Coach Cassie Seth, assistant for the women's basketball team at West Liberty University. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Love that you're doing these things. This is awesome for Topper Nation.
Yeah, it's more every bit as much about keeping myself busy and something to do as it is trying to get people and continue to do my job and getting some information out to people. But how have you been doing during all of this? I mean, it can't be easy having to work from home.
Yeah, it's definitely not something that I'm used to. But I tell you what, I've made a conscious effort to make sure that I stick to a routine. That's really important for me personally. That's something that we've talked to our kids a lot about too, is to make sure that, you don't just sit in your bed and do your homework all day. Like, you've got to get up and have a routine and that kind of thing. And lately the weather's been a little bit nicer, so we've been able to get outside to get some fresh air. But yeah, I've been real conscious about getting a routine in, making sure that I still get my workout in every single day, that kind of thing before I jump into work. So it's kind of the same. It's just I don't get to have my 30-minute podcast drive into work and then go to my office or see the kids. So.
Well, today you're going to get to have your 30 to 45-minute podcast.
Yeah.
Talk. You get to be the one interviewed today and look forward to, hey, there's going to be one of these days, hopefully, that I can drive back up to work and listen to this. I mean, it may be further down the road. We'll get this out before that happens, hopefully.
Right.
But I mean, we've both been around sports our entire lives. Never once has anything like this happened where everything was canceled and there's no live sports. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it really tests your will and how you can handle adversity and change. And that's something that's very ironic. The Coach Cooper's really big on in our program and is, being able to handle sudden change. And we talk about it a lot, and we talk about it with our kids a lot. And there's no other time to, put that into action, so to speak, than with what's going on. And it is different. And when this first happened, Coach Cooper and I were talking, and, we were both obviously around for 9/11, which was something huge that happened, same kind of economic impact and whatnot, but it didn't affect me personally as much as this has. And same with him and obviously everyone in the athletics world. So it's crazy, but, like I said, it tests your will and how you can handle adversity and sudden change for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you there. It is one of those crazy kind of things. I was in high school when 9/11 happened. So this, again, that didn't necessarily affect me personally, but it's a weird comparison between the two because it is two moments that you wouldn't expect to ever happen in your lifetime. Right. And it's happened two times.
It's definitely places you'll remember where you were when these things happened in your life.
Well, on somewhat of a lighter note, nowadays, since there's no live sports on TV, they're playing a bunch of old, I guess not live broadcasts anymore, broadcasts of games. What would be the top game or series you would want to go back and watch?
That is a good question. I tell you what, I'm a big WNBA fan as well, and they just had that WNBA draft last week. And after the draft, they played Game 5, the Mystics and the Sun. And I'm a big Mystics fan. I've been out to DC a few times. I'm an Elena Deladon fan for sure. So rewatching that is like I didn't know what was going to happen. Obviously, I saw it. But when they replay these games, it's pretty cool. It still gives you the same feelings if you're a diehard fan, that's for sure.
Now, are they big rivals with New York City in the WNBA?
Not necessarily big rivals, but with them getting Sabrina, I can see it might become one. But yeah, the WNBA draft was on last Thursday and one of the most viewed, in its history, which was pretty cool because it was virtual. I think that's why a lot of people tuned in. And then with the NFL draft coming up, kind of like a blueprint on how it's going to go. And there were technical difficulties and there were all these kind of things, but I think they made the best of it. And obviously sports were on TV, so I for sure tuned in.
Yeah, it's actually something live. Now, yeah. I know she's got her professional career to play, and it's going to be difficult to say where does she stack up in the all-time ranks in college women's basketball. Where does Sabrina rank?
One of the best for sure. And just the sheer fact of she isn't the most athletic. So she's impacted the game in so many ways, and to have the ability to do that through IQ, through scoring, through rebounding, through assists, through all of it, near triple doubles every single night. I mean, on a smaller scale, obviously we like to compare Audrey to her just because of the grit and the intensity and the competitiveness, and she nears triple doubles day in and day out. It's rare. That's a rare thing in college basketball, let alone gender.
Well, we'll shift focus a little bit to Lady Topper basketball, but stay with the fact or with the topic of former college athletes or former college basketball players. The 4 seniors from this past year: Morgan Bruner, Taylor Johnson, Monica Bragg, and also Grace Fodor. Those are 4 players that I feel very lucky to say that I was able to call their games, at least 2 years for Taylor and Morgan, and 4 for Grace and Monica. It was a lot of fun to watch all 4 of those ladies play.
Absolutely was. And all of them dynamic and unique in their own ways. But I really feel for them right now, especially because this was their last semester of college, period. And we like to preach in our program that you can work hard and you can play hard, but those kids were bought into everything that, we told them from when they stepped on campus, whenever that was. And that's why they were able to endure not only individual success, but team success. And I know a lot of the highlights of their careers were, getting back to the NCAA tournament, where you've got Monica and Fodes who came in to a historically rich tradition of a program, and then kind of had a down year, and then they got us back to it, which was great. And then you've got, Taylor and Morgan, who came in as transfers and just immediately bought in and elevated our level of play and our culture at the same time. So basketball wise, obviously tremendous careers, and they did everything you could ask them to do as a student athlete. But I really do feel for them now because college is the best 4 years of your life. And when you're there with your best friends and you love not only your teammates, but they become your best friends, you can hang out with them outside of basketball in your last college semester. I feel for them, because that was kind of taken away from them. And now they're just at home doing their work and finishing strong academically. Of course, I have to say that as the academic advisor. But they are, we check in with them. And on their grades, but I just feel for that social element, because they're very charismatic people, and I know that they really wanted that.
And that's got to be tough, because how do you go back to the season had just ended? You want to stick around your friends, and then, like you said, everything gets taken away from you. And I know it's not high school anymore, but you know what? They're still around each other. It's a small campus, not the biggest school in the world. So it is a little bit like a very, very large high school. And that is the worst part. And it's not just the athletes, too. It's everybody that's going to have their final semester be this semester. Fortunately, nowadays, there's things like this where they can still at least keep in contact. There's FaceTime and stuff like that. We wouldn't have had that. I don't think that would have been around for us. Maybe the very beginnings of it for us. I think I'm still a little bit older than you, so maybe.
No, I don't know.
I'm not sure. If you were
in high school for 9/11, then I'm older than you. I was definitely in college. I wasn't going to date myself then, but you just brought it up. So.
Well, we'll actually go to this. We'll get to it early since we're talking about age. You and I both grew up in the era of getting to see like the prime and end of Michael Jordan, and the beginning of Kobe and his entire career, and all of LeBron and everybody since then. Who was your favorite, or who do you think is the best of all time?
Oh, for sure, Jordan, for sure. Now, and that's not a knock on LeBron, and I'm sure from our kids, I'm going to catch some heat from that. But they didn't grow up watching Jordan. They only could see highlights or replays or whatever it may be, or even the impact and how he handled himself, and just he wanted to win at everything, even if let's say, I think it was his second season, it didn't start off too great, and there were then he got hurt, and then he had minutes limitations put on him, and even when he came back, like he played the game to win it. He didn't play the game so that they could pack it in and get the top lottery pick.
Yeah.
Like that mentality is something different. But I also grew up a big, big, big Larry Bird fan. And that's why my number obviously was 33 all throughout college. And as an athlete, you always hold on to your number. But big Larry Bird fan, just his game in general was different than Jordan's, but Jordan definitely is the best player of all time.
In my mind, with those two guys, those might be the top two in terms of trash talking, but then be able to do exactly what they said they were going to do. Those are my favorite hearing about Larry Bird. Yeah, he's told me he was going to do this, this, and this, and I'm thinking there's no way. All of a sudden,
and he did it.
And it's against a guy that's an all-star defender, an all-pro defender, and like, wow, these guys are just incredible. I would feel the same. I have the arguments, too, with other sports of guys that I watched growing up compared to the guys now. Like, no.
Yeah.
Michael had the killer instinct in sports where if they're down, they are not coming back. They're just not. Everybody else on that list, pretty sure Kobe lost in the finals at one point, right? With Shaq. I think the Pistons beat him. And then, of course, LeBron is lost in the finals and all that. Never happened for Michael. So that's why, in my mind, it's got to be Michael Jordan. We'll get that out of the way. Had to talk about the Michael Jordan stuff first, because The Last Dance, that show that's on the documentary, I wish they did it for his entire career, and there would be about 100 episodes.
And I'm telling you what, I don't know what person, especially if you grew up in that era, doesn't get the chills when they play the intro, when they play the Bulls intro. Like every kid in their backyard, they hummed it and ran out to it, go and play backyard basketball. Like you get the chills when that intro comes on.
There are still times at games I want to kick AJ out of his PA announcer seat and just, and now for the Lady Toppers, and get that going, do a little bit of both TV and PA. And I can't help it. It's something I've wanted to do for a really, really long time. Back to Lady Topper basketball, some of the returning players we have. We talked about Audrey a little bit, but she's also followed by Liv Belknap, who at the end of last season was having career game after career game after career game, really stepping up. Jackie is back from the starting lineup. We talked about Grace Falk, Corinne Thomas, Destiny Hutchison, the freshmen Tasia Staunton and Lindsey Humble, Sam Hall, both coming back from an injury-riddled season. But there a lot of potential on this team for the Lady Toppers and a lot of high hopes.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of buy-in and a lot of kids coming back that want to be coached. And we see it now. We obviously were fortunate enough, if you look at it glass half full, fortunate enough to actually have an end to our season and it wasn't taken away from us. And we were really eager and really excited to start this postseason. We kind of label it a mini camp before we had to lose them for the summer, and they wanted that. From the last game, the day after, they're in our office. They want that. They want that coaching. They want to get better. They're hungry, and that's a really good combination to have. So on paper, it may look like, we did lose a lot of scoring, and we did with Taylor and Morgan and even Fodes and Mon. But what we have coming back is a hunger and a desire that, like, you can't necessarily put a stat on that. And that's what separates good teams and great teams and average teams. And it's just the desire and want to get better. And I commend them. And that's a really reassuring feeling to have even during this time. The NCAA a couple of weeks ago did allow us to start doing virtual, countable, athletically related activities. So, they've wanted that and we've run with it, which is really good. Really, really good.
And some of the players that are incoming freshmen as well, or transfers that we can talk about during this weird recruiting time of the year because of everything that's going on with COVID-19. What are some of the players that the Topper Nation could look forward to seeing that'll be incoming this year? Yeah,
we've got 3 signees that have officially signed national letter of intent, and we're still working to finalize this class as well, which that's been a little bit of an obstacle, but we've gotten creative in finding ways to make sure that happens. And I think Coach Cooper's done a really, really good job. I don't know if he mentioned this when he was on there with you, but one of the things that he went and did is by himself, kind of did a virtual like MTV Cribs edition of here's our virtual tour of our facilities. And it actually turned out really, really, really funny, which we may now continue with even when this stuff's over with. But just, thinking outside the box and still trying to finalize our class while still setting West Liberty apart. We don't want to be doing the same things that every other college is doing at this time. We still want to set ourselves apart. So being conscious of that. But the 3 signees we have, I know can impact us in a major way. All 3 of them I know are ready to play. They're ready to go. And just in communicating with them during this time as well, they're eager too. So we're really excited about what we have coming in.
And you talked about how Coach Cooper was able to show them the virtual tour. How have you been able to keep in contact with the current players now? Is it through Zoom, FaceTime? What are you guys able to use?
Yeah. Now, when this first happened, we had almost handcuffs on by the NCAA because it turned into a dead period, and then we weren't allowed to have any they call it CARA, but countable athletically related activities. So we kind of treated it like they went home for the summer almost. So, we had our normal phone conversations, our text conversations, whatever it may be. But then once the NCAA allowed us to have the hours, we have been on Zoom at least 3 to 4 times a week. And some of them are with workouts, some of them are with film, some of them are just us hanging out as a family, which get interesting because the personalities on our team, there's someone always talking and there's different conversations going on, and we'll be in the middle of maybe something serious, and the next thing we're making fun of Destiny's hair. It's great to be around them and to have this kind of environment so you can still have that social interaction. But it really does stink, not just sitting at your office and not having one of them just walk in. That was a rotating thing when we were in school, and that's probably one of the things that I miss the most. And it's one of the reasons we did our social media bracket challenge last week, because we have a mini hoop in my office, so they'll come in and we'll play horse, every once in a while, and those get heated and they love it. But I miss that human interaction with them for sure. Zoom is just another way that we're making the most of it. We're doing what we have to do, but I for sure just miss them walking in.
Now we'll get to that. The Twitter office horse competition, that was a lot of fun to follow. And I'm not gonna lie, maybe I'm just not the brightest crown in the box. I was a little confused. Did they actually Zoom play each other and see if they made the shot or not, or was it just Twitter polls and voting on it?
Yeah. So what we did, what we've been doing, because our kids are so competitive, is when we were allowed to have these 8 hours of virtual workouts or whatever it may be, every Friday we've had what we call a game day challenge, and it's a workout that they have the best time is the winner. Per se. That's just an example. So after one of the Fridays, I said to them, okay, this is going to be your rankings for our bracket challenge. So, the best time's going to get the number 1 seed. I said, well, not the number 1 seed, because Coach Cooper has to be the number 1 seed. The boss. You can't not give him the number 1 seed, right? So then I followed suit and I said, well, clearly I'm the number 2 seed if he's the number 1. And then we gave, Johnny, our other assistant, the 3 seed. So they started with the 4 seed, but, but again, no, they didn't play. It just was based off pure interaction with whoever they could get to vote for them. And that's something that we've had to think outside the box as well, because we are big in social media, even when we're in school, in what we call enhancing our brand. So with a pandemic going on, how do you get that interaction? Do you just send out graphics? We already exhausted all of our stat graphics from postseason. So it's just a creative way to kind of combine what we were missing and how we could interactively get our following to, follow us, obviously, on Twitter, but be interactive as well. And it was based solely off of, politicking. And I can tell you some of our kids, and Liv being one of them who ended up winning, was sending out text messages to all of her friends with, hey, you want to vote for me. And it came down to a point, even on one of our Zooms, she said that, her friends were texting her every time she won, hey, we won. So I was like, oh, so now it's a team effort, right? Because now you have a team of people behind you doing this. But yeah, pretty funny. And I think with Coach Cooper, it kind of backfired on him, and he might get a little upset here that I'm going to tell this story, but he also, he's got 500 contacts in his phone. So he also sent out this major blast that was hey, vote for me. I've got to show these young kids up. And it kind of backfired on him because his friends are as sarcastic as he is. So they actually voted for Folk and his opponent instead of him. So.
Well, that's what you get when you reach out to your friends for help with stuff like this. They're going to
Exactly.
stab you in the back in a heartbeat.
The joke's on you.
That's a great way to keep everybody together, that competition stuff. And keep this in mind, once this quarantine ends and we can get people back on campus as a student, if they want to have this another horse competition, but it be real,
yeah,
I'll film it. I'll film it, and we'll get to see the real competition, the real fire in the eyes up close, instead of just the broadcast cameras for Topper Station. We'll get to see the real fire. I'll thoroughly enjoy that one. We'll go back a little bit in time to your relationship with Coach Cooper. You guys were friends growing up back in Erie, Pennsylvania. Just talk a little bit about that and how you guys stayed close friends for this long.
Yeah, we actually grew up about half a mile apart. He's a little bit younger than I am, and he'll be sure to tell you that, so I'll get it out before he tells you. I'm 3 years older, okay? But growing up, we lived out in the country. So him being a half mile apart, he kind of was considered my neighbor, if you will. So we would play our own games of pickup in each other's driveways with our friends and so on and so forth. My dad was actually his 9th grade basketball coach. So there's a little history there too. He still calls my dad coach, which is pretty cool. And then, obviously back at that time in LaBeouf, girls basketball was it. It was a big deal. And, we had a lot of people follow us, and he was one of them, even though he played, boys basketball. But just able to build that relationship through basketball, but doing other things too. We were friends off the court. So we were able to build that relationship. I obviously went off to college. He continued to still follow me. He would come visit, all those kinds of things. And then we kind of went our separate ways, where when he went to WVU and continued on as a student manager and then grad assistant, I was at Valparaiso getting my master's, coaching at a high school there. We always kept in contact, and it kind of, as fate would have it, it came full circle when, 10 years later, he gets a head coaching job and calls me and asks if I'll be his assistant. And I jumped right on that train. We always joked, as our coaching careers progressed and as we matured a little bit, we always joked, how crazy would it be if we, one of us got a head coaching job and, we could coach together. And I said, man, we'd be living the dream, wouldn't we? And it just happened to come to fruition. So probably one of the best moves that I've made in my career for sure.
I can tell you this personally, your coaching style, the competitiveness, the intensity that you coach with, that would have been right up my alley as a player. I've told a few other coaches on campus, even talking to Coach Irwin in this podcast, in the interview that he did, he started talking about his program and some of his wrestlers, and like, Coach, you're getting my blood boiling. You're making me want to run through a brick wall for you, and you've got the same type of attitude. You do the same things even during games. I can hear you sometimes, and it makes me want to call the game better. It gets me more into the game, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
I appreciate that. There's a lot of passion that boils up in here, that's for sure.
And you talked about growing up and how basketball was very big in the area you grew up in. Were there any other sports that you played or enjoyed playing growing up?
Yeah, I played softball growing up, and then all through high school as well. And I also was on the golf team. That's a fun little tidbit that I like to tell. And I still enjoy golfing, like, a lot. But yeah, played golf, played softball, and basketball.
There's a decent amount of courses around here, especially on the way to work through Oglebay. There's some good courses up there that everybody around here gets to play. But I mean, how and then I know it was college basketball that you played once you got to that level. But how much did those other sports growing up help in getting to that point in college and taking just lessons you learned from other sports into basketball?
Yeah, they help tremendously. And that's something that, we even talk to our recruits about too. And we like multi-sport athletes. It's because you get, all of the intangibles from sport, you get in a variety of ways from different sports. So every team is not the same. You have to learn how to handle adversity in different ways. You may be better at one sport than you are at the other, so you have to work harder or smarter or whatever it may be. So you get to be a well-rounded individual through everything you do. And I think, that carries over. Not only that, the break on it gives your body, you're training different muscles, you're cross-training them. That's not always same repetition. So the break that it gives that gives your body, I think helps you become a better athlete as well.
And we may have already touched on this a little bit earlier in the podcast, but what was your favorite team or player growing up? Was it Larry Bird and Michael Jordan your favorite? And so, all right, we covered those already. What was there one single moment growing up and watching sports that was like, okay, this is something that I want to make my life. I want to make my life about for as far as I can see.
Professional athlete wise, it was Larry Bird and Michael Jordan. And basketball always I would sit down and watch any basketball. It didn't matter. But I really did fall in love with college basketball. And this is kind of a Jordan thing too. I'm a big North Carolina Tar Heel fan, which also gets heated in the office because Coach Cooper is the big Dookie. So we have those battles back and forth. But just fell in love with Carolina and the Carolina way and the way they did things. And back then it was Dean Smith.
Yep.
I'm dating myself for sure. It was Dean Smith. And then, they had a few rough years, and then Roy Williams came back. And I still to this day am diehard Carolina. So we'll go at it with, Coach and I always talk about the best college basketball players of all time. And he'll throw JJ Redick in there and whatever it may be. And, you can't forget about the Carolina guys, But yeah, Larry Bird and Michael Jordan were some of my faves. Anytime basketball was on, I definitely would watch it, sit down with my dad. My whole family, actually, my mom and my sister would sit down and watch it too. So, but I don't think there was just one moment. We'd always be out in the drive. My dad is 6'6", 6'7", and Lord had no mercy when we played one-on-one in the driveway. So he would do the Hakeem Olajuwon. He would swat my shot into the cornfield and then give me the finger. So, there was no mercy in my household growing up.
Well, when you finally got your dad, did you give him the Michael Jordan back to him? What he did to
Okay,
Mutombo?
so I beat him one time. I did beat him one time, and I can't lie to you. It was a reverse layup, and I just threw it up over my head because I was mad, and it went in. And I ran into the house, hands up, celebrating, running circles, and never played him again.
Oh, you can't. You
Nope.
can't. Nope. That's. Was he trying to say that it didn't count because you weren't trying to do it?
Yeah,
it was just luck.
For sure. He'll tell you that to this day too.
There are some good stories my brother has about playing my dad in basketball growing up. It's similar stuff where he's like, oh, he cheated. He lied about the score at the very end. So I don't know who to believe. I can see them both being very competitive and lying about it. So
Yep.
it's always fun stories. Other things besides sports, especially right now with the quarantine going on and pretty much having to stay home for the most part. Have there been any shows or movies that you've been watching a lot lately?
I was a big Ozark fan before season 3 came out, so I had already watched season 1 and 2, but season 3 coming out during this, obviously sat down and binged that for sure on a weekend. Other than that, not really any shows that I've been into. Try to find a few movies with the Last Dance coming out. Obviously that's been a heaven sent since it came out last week. But no, nothing else other than Ozark. I was a big binge on that.
I just finished Ozark. I binge watched the whole thing. I hadn't seen any of it until the quarantine happened, so I binge watched it all. Very, very good show. Now I'm disappointed that I can't watch season 4 yet. It's not out yet.
Yep.
In The Last Dance, when I first saw it advertised, I must have read it wrong. I thought it was 4 or 5 nights in a row.
Yeah, okay.
And I thought it was going to be 2 episodes every night, and I'm thinking, yes, this is great.
Yeah.
And then I find out it's every Sunday. I'm like, oh, how disappointing. I was so distraught. I'm at the point now at my house where anytime I make food or dinner, whatever meal, I wash the dishes immediately just for something to do. I count down the articles of clothing before I can put a load of laundry. Okay, one more shirt. I need one more shirt before I can do a load of laundry because I am so bored.
Yeah.
And I honestly, that's probably a good problem to have in these times is if you're bored, enjoy it because you could be a much worse. Yeah. Have you watched or even attempted to watch any of Tiger King on Netflix?
No, and I don't think I'm going to do it. I don't think I'm going to do it at all. just the following, even jumping on, any kind of social media. I pretty much think I know what's going on already without watching it. So I don't know if I can get into it. And that's just the honest to God truth. I just don't know if I can get into it.
Well, if you're just up for some random entertainment and craziness, if you think it's crazy after the first few episodes, just wait, because nothing crazy has happened yet. That's kind of the weird part about this show, is that it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And I know one of the guys is in jail. They probably all should be on the show. They really should. It's insane. Coach, I can't thank you enough for taking time to be on this. We'll have to get you back on for sure at some point. But this was a lot of fun talking to you. A lot of good information. Anything else you would like to say to Topper Nation?
No, we just, obviously there's been a few graphics that have pumped out about how our following is the best in Division II. There's no secret at all. So that's awesome. Just hope everyone out there is staying safe. All of them are staying safe. And we're just really looking forward to putting a really good product on the floor next season for them, so that they can continue to come out and show out.
And Topper Nation, you can watch all of that on Topper Station, home and away, at least all of the home and hopefully most of the away, if not all of the away games this coming season. Again, thank you, Coach Cassie Seth. And a big thank you to Coach Cassie Seth for the interview. That one was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed talking to her. She cracks me up quite a bit. We always mess around with each other when we do Running with the Toppers. I'm sorry, no. The Scoop with Coach Coop. It's basically the same show, but one's for men's basketball, one's for women's. But we filmed the Scoop with Coach Coop. She's always got something to say. She's always standing right there and something funny to say right before we go on air. So I always enjoyed talking to her. Now she gets to be funny on air. So I'm happy with that one.
Yeah, we should almost, or you guys should almost, how Mountain East Conference did those mic'd up videos last year for all the sports. You guys should almost do one for practice or games. I bet you get some good ones out of that, and it'd be pretty fun to watch.
Oh yeah, seeing her in practice, the intensity is still there, but there are times in practice where you can almost see her chomping at the bit, wanting to get in the drill, just like watching the game. You can tell that she wants to get out there and still play a little bit.
Yeah.
I think she's satisfied with her coaching role and what she's capable of doing there, but we all wish we could still play, all of us.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's just any former athlete, when you don't ever want to think that you can't do it again, but or when you can't play, you just pick up another sport like golf, like I do. So
yeah, have you been golfing lately?
I've went once. It was weird. Wheeling Park, obviously they're taking all the precautions, like you can't stick your hand in the hole to get the ball out. They don't let the ball go all the way in. Everybody has to take their own cart. So it's pretty safe. I was a little skeptical of it first because, I'm trying to follow the rules and stay social distancing. But, they make sure everybody stands 6 feet apart if you're in line and everything like that. So it was super safe. But other than that, we had that 1 week stretch where the weather was beautiful, 70 degrees. But since then, it's kind of coming back towards winter a little bit. It was freezing yesterday. So hopefully the weather can start to break again.
Yeah, Coach Seth said she enjoys golfing still to this day, so you might have to go golfing with her one time.
She'll probably beat me.
She was good at everything else she did. I wouldn't be surprised if she'd beat you at golf too. I know she would beat me in all the sports that she played. So
yeah, my golf game, it's getting there, but it's not great.
But one of the things that she talked about in the interview, we talked about the multi-sport athletes that they like to recruit, and I kind of like that too. We both played multiple sports growing up, and certain sports, and the way she described it, I loved. You're better at certain sports, and most of the ladies that come to West Liberty to play basketball was their number one sport. But when they play others, maybe they're not the top dog in whatever other sports they play, and they have to learn some hard lessons in that one that they can bring to basketball or whatever their sport they're most prominent in, and learn hard lessons or be able to put those forth in the good sports without having to learn hard lessons in the sports that they're really good at.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the nail right on the coffin there, Todd. Multi-sport athletes, not only are they going to be more, physically capable, they're going to be your most athletic players, but typically they're the smarter ones too. They're the ones that are going the extra mile in the classroom, and they just never stop. And I think that it's definitely a smart thing to do. I mean, I think you don't see it as much in high school than you used to maybe back when you went to high school. There's a lot more dual sport athletes, and I don't think you see it as much. I think kids start to focus in once they get to high school on that one sport that they want to be good at, or they want to have a chance to go to play at the next level, whether it be baseball, softball. Kids will focus or whatever. But I don't feel like it happens as much anymore. Maybe at a smaller school, like a Wheeling Central, for example. You have a lot of dual sport athletes. But it's nice to see. You don't see it at college very often either. Women's basketball team, they had Kelsey Hewlett a couple years ago. Obviously, she didn't stick it out for the basketball team because she wanted to explore track career more, and you got to respect her decision on that. But for a year, she was a dual sport athlete. Look at Isaiah Robinson, what he does on the track. He sets records, it feels like, every time he goes out there, and then he is one heck of a receiver in football too. So it's not very often you see it at the college level, but when you do, it's pretty special.
Borsellino is another one, defensive lineman on the football team, a wrestler as well.
Dan Monterosa a couple years ago. I remember that one day
Dan was a big one.
Had like 100 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns, and then that was the final football game. And then basketball season started the same day, and he had like 20 points and 10 rebounds, something like that. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's what a way to end your West Liberty football career and then begin your West Liberty basketball career on the same day.
I always, said if he would have went to West Liberty for all 4 years, I would have loved to seen him and Bonifant together. That would have been scary, but also I would have loved to see what he would have did on the football field.
Yeah, that was his 1 year of football with Dakota Conwell. That was a lot of fun to watch. I mean,
stir it up.
Yeah, it's kind of like Isaiah Robinson now.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun, especially when we get to compare these guys, these dual sport or multi-sport athletes at West Liberty to some of the other players that are around now. Dan, you think of Isaiah Robinson on the football team, but on the basketball team, you think Will Yoakum for Dan Monterosa. Yeah. Those are expectations I don't want to put on players just because I don't want them to feel like they have to live up to a certain level. And plus, rather than don't be the next Dan Monterosa or be the next great player, be the first you. And, make a name for yourself. And that's another big part of West Liberty sports that I really enjoy. I think that's a big part of it. That's they want you to make your own name, and it's not that you show up and you put that uniform on and all of a sudden you're good because it's a West Liberty uniform. Now, the guys that came before made that uniform good. You have to continue to keep that prestige up.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's one thing, it's across the board on all the sports at West Liberty. And, I'll bring up the women's basketball example again. They use that family, that phrase, they're a family. And it's with all the sports. You don't see any me. It's, especially with the men's basketball team, there are outstanding basketball players that if they played somewhere else, they'd be averaging 30 points a game, getting all the recollections, all the recognition that they wanted, all the accolades. They choose to play here because they want to win and work together as a family and as a team. And that's just the same with all the sports. You don't really ever see somebody running away with all the stats or trying to point all the attention to himself or herself. So it's really special.
And the proof is kind of in the pudding. You take a look at some of the players that West Liberty has lost over the years that transferred out and what they've been able to do in their career and wherever they ended up, winning conference players of the years and all kinds of accolades. And just imagine if they had all stayed, what could have happened. But at the same time, pretty happy with what we've got. I don't know if I'd want it any other way, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and using the men's basketball as an example, we've talked to Ben before, and he'll say the same thing every time. He wants guys that want to be here. If you don't want to play here and you don't want to be here, he's not going to want you. So if a kid wants to transfer out, Ben's not going to fight it, anything like that. So. But yeah, it just seems like if we lose somebody, just fill the hole, next man up. And, you have to want to play this way. You come to West Liberty, you don't come to West Liberty to, like I said earlier, score 30 points or do that men's or women's. You don't see it. It's you want to play on a good team and you want to, win. So.
And it's kind of funny. You hear them talk about the men's team and how they not that they recruit the same exact player every single year, but they recruit, a similar style every year. That's what they're looking for. And you're starting to see with women's basketball as well. Those good guards, the really good shooting guards, and players that might have a little bit of size but can move. And Grace Falk has got some height and a wide wingspan, but she can shoot and she can play. And all those little things. Corinne Thomas kind of reminds you of a young Morgan Bruner. Things like that. You see how they just restock. Again, it's not rebuild, it's reload for women's basketball at West Liberty, and they're in the process of doing that now, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see what they do next year. Luckily, Lindsey Humble, coming off of an injury this past year, will get the Toppers a little bit more of a true post player inside, and we'll see what can happen there. It'll be the first time since Marissa Brown graduated that they'll have a true post presence on the floor.
Yeah, and I know we talked about it last time, on the last episode you had me on, but I really thought that was what held them back a little bit this year, was Lindsay being hurt and not having that true post presence down there, especially playing in the Mountain East Conference, where we've talked about how good the fives are, whether it be Hayton from Charleston or Fitzwater from Concord. We
forgot Tyra James last time. She was a Conference Player of the Year.
Yeah, I know there's a couple more I'm missing out, but it's just a precedent that basically Marissa Brown started and dominated for 2 years at West Liberty. Now we, had Lindsay last year and she got some solid playing time, and we thought, pass the baton off to her this year, but unfortunately injuries happen in part of sports. But yeah, I thought that position really hurt them last year. Not saying the Jackie Kits didn't play.
She was playing out of position.
Yeah, she was playing out of position, but she still had a tremendous season. And
yeah,
he was playing girls that were 5-6 inches taller than her, and that's almost impossible to guard. But she still did it. But you need that true post presence, especially in this conference. And we even see Glenville State, when they're vulnerable, it's because they're typically not one of the bigger teams. And, when they throw down to the post, they don't have an answer for those big girls.
Well, hopefully for Jackie, with the adversity she faced last year playing, against some really, really stiff competition, in the future, when she faces some tough times or adversity in games, hey, I've been there before. Let's just keep going. No worry about this. Let's keep playing. Another thing with Coach Cassie Seth, having that close relationship, like we kind of talked about it earlier, growing up right down the road from Coach Cooper, and it really, that family term again, they've been close for so long. The players know that. You can see that as a player. The coaches get along so well. They've been close for so long. It kind of not forces it, but it makes you want to be a part of that family as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk as much as you want about something and, talk about how great it is, but you have to be able to show it off too. And, they definitely do that. And, when they have recruits on campus and they see how close the team is and how close they are to the coaches and everything like that, it really sends a message that this is a family up here. And they've definitely done a great job of building that as a brand here at West Liberty. And, that's why kids want to come play here. They want to be a part of that. They don't want to play somewhere where, the team's together for practice and they go off and do their own separate things. But, the women's team at West Liberty, if they're not at practice together, they're probably all hanging out somewhere together as well.
I really like the idea they had. We talked about it during her interview, the Twitter office horse challenge, I think is what they called it, something like that. I enjoyed that, and I really do. When we're allowed to go back on campus and everybody's allowed to come back, I would love to film a real office horse challenge in the women's basketball coach's office. I told Coach Seth that I wanted to do the old Michael Jordan, Larry Bird commercial for McDonald's. Bank it off this, bank it off that, nothing but net. Do you even know those commercials, or are you too young?
I do remember watching some of those. But I think if it's a true office horse challenge, it's got to be a crumpled up piece of paper and a trash can, right?
Not if you got the hoop that's on the door frame.
I got the document dunk in my office.
There you go.
For my trash can. It's got a little backboard on it, so.
But how are you supposed to do horse, like trick shots with a piece of paper?
It makes it harder.
I guess we got to figure out a hockey way to do that.
Hockey? Yeah.
I don't know how that would work out because
Tough for horse is usually just play posts.
True.
First person hit all 3 posts. So
We'll figure it out. Back to hockey a little bit. Sorry, folks, we're going to kill you with this. We talked about the Last Dance documentary, Michael Jordan and the Bulls, his last season with the Bulls. What team, or maybe it's hockey, what team would you have loved to have seen a 10-part documentary series on one championship season?
That's tough. Obviously, I'm a hockey fan, and I'm a little biased towards the Penguins. I think what that team did recently, that team, the 2016 and 2017 team, if they could somehow combine those 2 seasons into a documentary, because they went back-to-back championships. And the first year they were kind of the underdogs. They came in and won it. Then the second year they just stand off the track when the train's coming through. They knew they were going to get it done and they were going to win it all again. That would be a good one to watch. But non-hockey, I mean, I think you think of the Golden State Warriors, the year they only lost 9 regular season games. I mean, what an unbelievable year that was. And
lost in the playoffs.
Yeah, that team, though, with Curry, Durant, and Thompson. I mean, I've seen some arguments now on Twitter where people are trying to say that that Warriors team would have beat the Jordan team that they're showing off now in this documentary. So that could be interesting. So I don't know. That would be a good one. And then obviously I think of those great Oilers teams back in the day with Gretzky and Coffey and all those guys, Messier. That would be a fun one to watch as well. But one of my favorite documentaries is the 30 for 30 is trying to think of what it's called. I think it's Four Falls of Buffalo.
Yes.
The Bills lost the Super Bowl 4 years in a row. So I think it would be cool to maybe see one where it's kind of similar to that, where it focuses on a team that was so close but didn't get it done. Like maybe like a documentary where like the greatest team to never win it all, which obviously the Bills, they were so close. They could have been they were just close to being a dynasty, and they ended up being one of the most laughable teams of all time. So,
well, the NFL Network did that. The missing rings, they had America's Game.
Yeah.
They did the missing rings, and there was one I think they did for the Steelers, and I think it was in the 70s, and I think it was right before their second back-to-back championships or back-to-back Super Bowls, and I forget what year it was. It was like 10 years before I was born or so, but they all say it was kind of like the Penguins in '93. It was the best team they ever had, but they didn't win the Super Bowl that year. The Pens didn't win the Cup. The best team they ever had.
Yeah, I mean, even in my lifetime, the Penguins have had some teams where I think have been better than some of the teams that they've had that have won a cup.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how it goes. I mean, we know that. I mean, you can have all the big names and all the talent in the world, but if that talent doesn't work good together or hard, they don't work hard. That the oldest quote in the book, where hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. It doesn't matter how much talent you have. So I think the Penguins, sometimes they got too heavy loaded on their teams and they just had too much to go around and everybody wanted to be the star. So it didn't work out.
Well, for my pick of a documentary I'd want to watch, I'm going to go a little bit off the beaten path here. And I think it was either the year after the lockout, the first year back, or that was when it was Edmonton and Carolina, right? Or was that right before the lockout?
No, yeah, I think you're right. I think Carolina won in 06.
Okay.
The Ducks won in 07, then Detroit, Pittsburgh.
Right. So that year when it was Edmonton, Carolina, neither one of those teams was expected to be in the Cup final that year. So watching the documentary on those two teams and how they both got there, and the St. Louis Blues from a couple years, that would have been a cool one to watch, just because dead last to number one in a very, very short period of time, where it was so late in the season when they were dead last that almost what they did to get into the playoffs, they almost had to do it like perfectly. It was almost like Avengers Endgame, where there's 14 billion scenarios I've seen like this, and only one time do you come out Stanley Cup champions, and they did it.
All the stars have to align, and I think it's so crazy. You're using the NHL example of how many teams have gone on and won a Stanley Cup that changed coaches halfway through the year. The Penguins have done it twice, which is mind-blowing. That's happened twice to the franchise, where the team goes from out of the playoffs and make a change, and then they win the Stanley Cup. I just think that's so crazy. St. Louis did it, obviously, and there's been other examples in the past as well. But it's
always hockey.
Sometimes you need a new voice, and the Penguins, I mean, say what you want. Obviously, they grow tired of their coaches and they kind of push guys out. I think that's one of the negatives about the Crosby era that he's
Well, it's all having superstars.
Yeah, he's had so many coaches through his time, and he's definitely probably pushed some out and tried to tell, we need to get this guy out of here. But, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, all that matters are the championships. So, but I think that's crazy that so many times you see a coaching change and the team goes on to win it all.
Well, we've been talking for a good while here on this second half of our portion of the podcast. Kyle, thank you for being on again. A huge thanks to Coach Cassie Seth for taking time and talking to me. Great interview. Had a very fun time doing that. We'll have to have her back on once again. But final thoughts before we sign off.
Oh, man. I just want to wish everybody stay safe and healthy out there. And hopefully, Todd, we can maybe do one of these on campus sometime soon.
Yeah, I can't. I enjoy doing the Zoom, but I want to see you in person. Is good. I want to have lunch again sometime soon. Yeah,
I missed the drive up the hilltop, so hopefully we can get back soon.
Yeah, I can't wait for that next chicken patty lunch. I'll be happy for that. All right, Topper Nation, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on the Hilltopper Sports Podcast.